I've seen the state that trains come in, and you clean this for £11 an hour, and now they're saying, oh, well, you want £13 an hour or £14 an hour? That's disgusting.
The thing is, though, I would have thought historically that the more fed up you are, the easier it would be for me to say, well, who do they think they are going on strike when you're struggling to keep your head above water? Do you see what I mean? Normally, you can do a little bit of divide and rule when people are fed up. It's why, for example, demonising immigration is so much more effective when the economy is in bad shape.
Well, I don't know if I agree, because the thing is, it's not just the people that don't work in it. It's the people that work in it too, who might have not necessarily striked before and are striking now.
That resonates, doesn't it? That makes you sit up and take notice.
Unless we unify together, there won't be any change. And this government is an absolute sham. And it's,
nearly had a heart attack then. Don't do that when I've got a flipping act. Yes, it is an absolute shower.
It's a sham, and it's been outed now. And especially with this, COVID and everything, this massive pandemic, they weren't there to support us. If anything, they're keeping the rules, and then they weren't keeping them to themselves.
And how much? So this is fascinating actually, because I'm overly interested in what the newspapers are doing when most people don't read them anymore, but they are online, of course, and they inform broadcast and everything else. But there's just an absence where the hate used to be, and that must be part of it as well. Or it's chicken and egg, and they've calculated or worked out. People don't want to be told that the nurses that looked after us during COVID are a bunch of chiselling scroungers who spend all their money on fags and flat screen televisions, or whatever this week's cliche is.
I have got 2 under 2, and potentially, I am going back to work in a couple of weeks' time, and my wages don't even cover the child cost.
No, and that's just not right.
And it's not right, And then until things change, what are we going to do?
That is it. But maybe that's part of it, especially if you feel you haven't got much recourse to resist. Unlike some of the people who are taking industrial action, instead of feeling envious, as you have historically been encouraged to feel, you feel supportive, because you're like, flipping out, I'd do that if I could. It's an interesting one. Thank you, Kathy.
I mean, for me, it's the fact that it's a just cause. All these people deserve that money, and they all deserve a sensible cost of living. And I'm not in a position in my job to take it to the government, but these people are, and they deserve our support, because they are highlighting en masse and very bravely what we are all thinking. Yes. And so that's why my support has changed. If the train drivers went on strike, or the train workers, I wouldn't be so with them.
Sure.
But the cost of living and their wages are so low now into what people need. They need this money. And I think the debate is really skewed by this insistence on looking at percentages.
Yes.
If they say, a 35% pay rise.
Sounds enormous, but that's 35%.
What does that actually mean?
Exactly that. But from where they are now, or from where they were in 2008, and as a ratioed with the cost of living or linked to inflation, it does. But that's why they do it. The Daily Mail's done a classic today. It's got a story about people in Wales getting treatment on the NHS in England, and they show that it's gone up by nearly 40% from one year to the next. And I looked at it for 5 minutes, Bryce. I thought there's something not right here. I can't quite work out what it was. And then the year before it was low, it was high again. So it went high, low, high. And they've kind of ignored the first high and gone from low to high and said, they're all running away from Wales and come. And I suddenly realised it's counting operations in a period when we were mostly in lockdown and comparing it to a period when we mostly weren't in lockdown. So it's another example of what you're describing.
I mean, I look at the jobs that these people do, teaching assistants, teachers. Would you clean a train for £11 an hour? I mean, I've seen the state that trains come in, and you clean this for £11 an hour, and now they're saying, you want £13 an hour or £14 an hour? That's disgusting. And
it doesn't land anymore. Okay, quick question. Why does the magic money tree response no longer have legs, to mix my metaphors slightly? Why does, because that's always underpinning these sort of conversations. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford it.
For me personally, it's because the taxation system that is in place to support, and that's a much, much bigger debate, but the taxation system that is in place to fund all of this is morally bankrupt. And it's proven by the profits of the energy companies, the profits of the water companies. Anywhere you look,
yes,
the fact that the hoovering of wealth away from the population to the minority, and that's a much, much bigger debate. But I think that's also what is driving. You didn't want a general debate, but in terms of a general comment,
yeah, no, of course,
it's behind my thinking that says these people are being made out to be villains when all they want is a decent wage for a day's work, and all the money that could be collected to give them what they needed is just being squandered.
And that, I wonder whether lockdown COVID coverage has introduced a different approach to those numbers. You look at the numbers that were being swilling around. You look at the figures, not just the public expenditure on furlough and things like that, but also the amount of money making its way into the pockets of companies that were favoured by Conservative politicians, and to turn around and say we can't afford to give a train cleaner or a nurse a pay rise, but we can afford to give, £25 million worth of clean profit to that donor over there who's never actually run a PPE company before, but set one up last night and had a government contract by tea time. That, I don't know. That would be more subconscious than conscious, but maybe that balloon is deflated. That balloon of magic money tree rhetoric has sort of deflated. I don't know, and I like that. Bryce is a perfect caller, personal, and then move on to the more general.
Well, I've supported the strikes very much from day one.
Yeah.
We've spoken a couple of times before, so that's not too surprising because I used to be a bit of a Brexity Tory type. But through the COVID times and listening to shows like yours, I think I've just got much more facts, knowledge, engagement. Yeah, mellowed, but the scales haven't just fallen from my eyes. I've been given some new glasses and everything, and now I'm all over the facts, following the right people to get the information I need.
Well,
but let me try and explain.
Yeah, go on. Tell me about your journey.
About if you don't mind, why I think other people's support is increasing, particularly those from the Gammon and Pineapple district. So do it as an analogy, if you don't mind. If you imagine take Miss O'Brien out for a lovely meal, and this is just human nature, right? And you turn up at the restaurant and you get served some food that's just stone cold. You go in, it's a little dark, candlelit. You think, oh, lovely ambience, but then you get served some cold food. The first person you get cross with is the waiter who brought you the cold food, the minimum wage waiter who, once you had a discussion with, you work out, well, actually the kitchen's not working because the manager hasn't paid the bill. And then you work out that the manager hasn't paid the bill because the manager's taken all the money out of the business where he pays all of his employees minimum wage, and he's bought himself a new Porsche. And that's our government at the moment. And over time, everyone has that conversation with the waiter, the workers. You work out, you go to the service, you work out the service isn't working. Why isn't it working? Because people aren't being paid properly and there's no investment in that business.
And everything then contributes to that process, because, I mean, I think the most obvious example would be the water companies, wouldn't it? And you see the money that they're extracting while also extracting something else from the British public, and then the energy companies making these enormous, just a sense of natural justice being defied, I think you're describing.
Massively so, and these things, I literally never used to know about them, but now it's almost fatiguing, the amount of it that goes on. And right in the news, we think they want it there, but why on earth would they want it public, that they just spent £1.6 billion of taxpayer money with no competing bids on a bacterial barge that's got nobody on it?
That's beautifully put. The bacteria. Well, I wonder whether that little theory I shared at the top of the show about the only place they go in search of approval or disapproval is an echo chamber. It's the right-wing media that supports them, whatever they do. But I don't know. You've reminded me with your talk of the Porsche driving boss. You know that old story about the boss who put an arm around the shoulders of one of his staff and walked out into the car park to show him his brand new Porsche, and he said to him, "Do you see that Porsche?" He said, "If you work really, really hard, then one day I'll be able to buy another one."